Hello and welcome to this little video. Today I'm going to be reading an extract from Sam Spallucci Bloodline, which is this fella here who came out in November 2021. Yep, that'd be about right. It's a story regarding obviously my investigative paranormal Sam, and it's sort of like taking some of the threads which have been going on in the previous books and drawing them all together, where he ends up having to take on the bloodline of Abel, who are this sort of like shadowy cabal of werewolves who have got designs on his Lancaster. Before I crack on and have this little read of this little segment where Sam encounters some of the bloodline in Williamson Park, please, if you can, give me a quick like, perhaps a little subscribe. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Anyway, onward and upward. It was as I immersed myself in my own silence that I heard the soft footstep behind me. "Walk with me," came the low voice from over my shoulder. Even before I turned around, I knew instinctively who it was. As I looked Chris Dootson up and down, a grey hoodie covering his wild hair, my hand felt the ominous weight of the revolver loaded with silver bullets in my coat pocket. I cast my eyes around at the oblivious citizens of Lancaster, who are out enjoying the natural and crafted beauty of the park. See the big trees. Look at the towering stonework. Watch the crazed werewolf rip the hapless paranormal investigator to shreds. Actually, I'm good here. His eyes glowered at me. You need to come with me. We need to talk. So talk. I can hear you just as well here as in the dark corner where you could eviscerate me in privacy. If I wanted you dead, nothing could stop me right now, and I'd be away before you hit the floor. I guess that he had me at that. So I shrugged and let him lead me away from the Ashton Memorial, past the cafe, and along towards Fenham Car. We turned right down into the nature reserve, which was a favourite haunt of middle-class park-goers, who are normally attired with green Wellington boots and accompanied by a turbocharged spaniel. He led me further down woodland paths, not saying a word. All the time, the images of Swarbrick, Burger Bob, and the unfortunate chef from the quarterhouse kept flashing across my internal vision. This could not be a good idea, surely. I kept my hand clasped around the revolver in my pocket. How quickly could I draw it out and proceed to fire off a shot? Quicker than the amount of time that Dootson would need to spin around and slice my cartoid with a sharp claw? I thought not. Plus there was a whole accuracy thing. I'd be more like to save him the job dispatching me by shooting myself in the balls. Uncle would never forgive me. A waste of good silver. Before too long, we arrived at the old reservoir that I recall someone once told me had been constructed in Edwardian times to supply the city, but was now chained off to stop middle-class spaniels from inadvertently drowning themselves. When Dootson was sure that we were alone, he turned to me and said, "You went to my house. Why?" I was feeling somewhat arsey, having been dragged out of the back and beyond, so I snapped back, "You eviscerated a chef. Why?" I watched as his face literally rippled with anger. "You have no idea as to what's going on. Don't you dare judge me." I was about to snap back a witty retort when his eyes shot up at the exact moment that a black blur rocketed out of the undergrowth and slammed into him. Dootson absorbed the blow and rolled over, bringing his legs up and throwing his assailant off, sending it crashing against a tree. My throat lost all moisture as the werewolf raised its snarling head and flashed 2 rows of wicked-looking teeth at us. 2 more of the bloodline slunk out of the shadows and proceeded to stalk around our flanks. They were clothed in black, form-fitting bodysuits that moved perfectly with their powerful muscles. The uniforms made them look like they were a squad of wolf commandos. I thought back to Jitendra's description of Stone's crack team that had wiped out the village in the West Bank and shuddered. Dootson rose to his feet, and I saw his skin ripple as he began to transform. "Run!" he barked over his shoulder. "It's me they want dead, not you." But I was frozen, rooted to the spot, unable to tear my eyes away from the scene that was unfolding. My ears heard the unmistakable sound of bones creaking and sinew twisting as Dootson assumed the shape of the wolf that I had seen on the CCTV footage earlier that day. And let me tell you, he was even more terrifying in the flesh. His muscular form towered over me, and his powerful limbs flexed as he snarled at our attackers. Then they pounced. As a precise unit, they threw themselves upon him. One reached out with a paw the size of a dinner plate, forcefully shoving me out of the way. It was like being hit by a car, and I careened into the rough floor of the woodland. Picking myself up, I watched as they latched onto their prey. My hand instinctively went for the gun, but I paused as my rational mind informed me that to try and shoot now would be crazy. They were a whirling mass of fur and muscle, a 12-limbed, howling and snapping, multi-fanged, acid-trip rendition of Tasmanian devil, and there was no way that pretending to be a cross-dressing rabbit was going to distract them. It was damn near impossible to tell one wolf apart from the other. If I was to fire inside the same melee, I would stand as good a chance of hitting Dootson as any of the others. So I did what I insanely considered to be the next best thing. I grabbed the fallen branch and charged at the mass of howling, growling fur and teeth that was snapping and scratching at the struggling Dootson. Some part of my brain was vaguely aware that I was screaming at the top of my voice. I wasn't sure whether it was in bravado or just sheer terror. One of the bloodline glanced over his shoulder in curiosity at the noise and was greeted first with a quick rap across the muzzle, then a sharp jab into the kidneys. He gave a yelp of pain, then disentangled himself from the melee, advancing slowly towards me. I looked at the snarling werewolf. I looked at the pathetic piece of wood. I felt like vomiting. The creature's mouth turned up into a simulacrum of a leer as it pounced towards me. All I could do was try to defend myself, and, grabbing the wood between two hands, I thrust it forwards as a pair of jaws came cracking together. I felt saliva from the beast's mouth fly over my hands as its teeth chowed down on wood. It sank them into my improvised weapon and tried to rip it from my hands. There was no way on earth that I was letting go of that baby. I clung on for grim death as the wolf yanked and tugged. I felt my feet part company with the woodland floor, and I was shaken from side to side in a similar manner to how great Uncle Alf's terrier used to shake rats in his overgrown garden. The beast gave one more decisive jerk with his mouth, and I felt my aching fingers give way. I was flung to the side and tumbled into the mouldering twigs and leaves of the woodland. The werewolf raised a howl of victory before turning towards me and preparing to pounce. A gunshot rang through the woodland. A stunned wolf stared down at the bleeding hole in the front of its bodysuit. An amazed paranormal investigator stared at the heavy revolver clasped in his shaking hands. I didn't even remember pulling it out of my pocket. I had acted completely on an instinct of self-preservation. The two others pulled away from Dootson and watched aghast as their companion sunk down onto his knees. Their eyes did not leave him as he transformed back into the pale skin and bone of a man. A dead man. He slumped sideways onto the floor, and I swung the weapon that had killed him towards the others. They didn't need telling what was coming next, and scampered quickly out of sight into the undergrowth. Dootson wiped his paw-like hand against the slash on his chest before transforming back into his human form. He opened his mouth to speak, but his sharp hearing picked up the sound of running just before my two ringing pieces of head adornments did. He turned and fled. Deciding I did not want to be found holding a smoking gun next to a dead guy, I decided to do likewise. Hope you enjoyed that. Again, I'll say it's from Sam Spallucci, Bloodline. You can find it on my website, aschambers.co.uk. There's links through there for signed copies, or if you want, you can purchase them straight through Amazon. Again, links on the website. Again, little like, little subscribe, be fantastic. Take care. I'll see you again soon.